am here with my sister, Emily Guy Birkin, who does not use a hyphen.
And I am here with my sister, Tracie Guy Decker, who does use a hyphen.
And together we are Lightbringers, where we illuminate the deeper meaning of the crime-solving devil TV show. And you bet your ass we're overthinking it.
Your sweet ass.
So, today we're talking about season 3, episodes 15 and 16, High School Poppycock and Infernal Guinea Pig. So,
these are fun episodes.
They are. Yeah. So, well, let's start at the beginning with High School Poppycock. Where do you want to?
Well, first I want to say you and I need pink and blue neon wigs just to have, because I think we could rock them.
No doubt. Yeah, I want the blue one though.
All right, fair enough. I will be pink.
Okay, all right. So that was a good fluffy start
Yes.
for that one. So this was an interesting episode in terms of like it was trying to give us some backstory on Chloe. I'm not sure how successful it actually was, or how much I believe it, I guess, is more to the point. But I thought that was kind of an interesting piece of her backstory. Yeah. And then some like really cringy moments also.
I honestly, this is one of the few times where I really enjoy where she and Lucifer switch roles. Because oftentimes I'm just like, oh, to make it stop when they switch roles. But there's something about her like getting eaten up by the books that is like charming and feels understandable.
It also is written in such a way that it was authentically Chloe, as opposed to other times when she's like, when she has him in the ear and she's trying to be Lucinda, that's just like, where she's trying to be something other than who she is. But all of her reactions and actions are come authentically from her, not her trying to be somebody else. Yes. And so I think probably that also contributes to the charm.
Yes. Yeah. And so because of my experience with reading Twilight, I kind of understand, and that should go on your tombstone because frankly, that's a good thing.
Yeah. What I've learned about, I'm just not interested.
So here's the thing about Stephenie Meyer. So I read the Twilight books. I was 30, maybe 31. I was still teaching. So this would have been around 2009, 2010. And one of my students loaned the books to me. It was like, oh, Ms. Birkin, you got to read these. So I read the first one and like swallowed it whole, basically like unhinged my mouth and took it entirely in like a snake. And what I will say about Stephenie Meyer, she is not a good writer. What she does have is the ability to immerse a reader. And there are a few writers who can do that. So like Dan Brown had that same ability, also not a good writer. And so and these are the two that I can think of. I'm sure there are others who are better. I think Stephen King probably can do that pretty well too. But I was reading this as a fully grown woman who was married, who had a job, who spent time with teenagers and recognized like the difference between teenage reactions to things and more mature adult reactions to things. And reading it, I was 15 again. And I felt all of the angst. And so
that's what Chloe
is experiencing. And I think, so I have no doubt that the writer's room had a similar experience. I like to think that they had the same reaction that I did. Like I put the book down and then had like mental nausea afterwards because it's like, oh God, what did I just read? This is really awful stuff. My major reaction after reading Twilight was, thank God this wasn't around when I was 13, because I would have been obsessed and not had the ability to see the horrible, damaging viewpoints within it. So but that is like, that struck me as very, very realistic, that she would be like, baby, what are you doing out of bed? Like, what are you talking about? It's morning.
Right.
You're gonna miss the bus. Like, because I read Twilight in that same way. Yeah. So and because she did not get that high school experience, I can kind of also see her having the like, oh my God, it's Tristan and there's Emily and oh my God, Max and Isabel, can you believe it? Like I can see that
sort of fangirling.
Yeah, because she doesn't necessarily have the distance because she didn't get to experience it the first time.
Right.
So I appreciated the way that part of the story was told. And then I also loved the fact that Lucifer, once he realized what was going on, was just like, have your fun.
Yeah. Actually, that was a moment of that felt really authentic, I guess, when she says, I know it's stupid. They're in the car and she talks about how
she never went to prom.
Yeah. And how it was like, she kind of dismisses herself as that it being stupid or silly or something. I don't remember the exact word, but he was like, no, it isn't. And like, that was it. There was no joke. It wasn't even any comforting of her. It was just like, that is not ridiculous. Which was really, I don't know. I just appreciated that moment of his just like statement of fact. It is not ridiculous.
Well, and what's lovely also is that like, he's not human. He didn't go to high school. He doesn't like, he doesn't understand these rituals. Or you would think that he doesn't understand these rituals, but he does. Like, he gets that this is a ritual that she missed out on, and that's sad. You know, that's something that she missed, and she regrets it somewhat. So I thought that was, I mean, when he asks her to prom at the end, and I don't know if I didn't notice the first few times I've seen this episode, but he's wearing a bow tie. Like, he's wearing
I didn't notice that.
A tuxedo.
I did notice that they dance with like her, like at least they start with her hands on both shoulders, like we did when we were 15. 15 at B'nai Mitzvah stuff.
But I like, there was something very, very lovely about that, about, you know, like, you didn't get to have this experience. This isn't the same, but
here's a taste.
You go to prom with me. Here's a taste of it. And he got her a corsage, which is awesome. So,
in my memory, it was in a clamshell case. It's not. It's just separate. But when I was remembering from watching it the first time, which just shows how much like other things were influencing my memory.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I also okay, first of all, when he says to Dan, like, Dan, you don't have many ideas or something like that. Dan goes, huh?
And he says, exactly.
Nicely. So that entire, and then to the
yes and it doesn't seem to be working. It's clearly not working.
And like Chloe pointing out, like, yeah, you're not saying anything different from anything you would normally say.
You're just putting yes in front of it. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
So I really appreciated that the obsessed fan was an adult man.
Yeah.
That was and like, it was lovely way for them to kind of make fun of fandom without making fun of teenage girls.
Yeah.
Because fandom sometimes deserves a little skewering. But a lot of times the skewering is not because of the
No,
fandom.
it's totally gendered. And
It's totally because we don't like teenage girls.
Yeah.
And so they completely avoided that by making the obsessed fan an adult man. And that's awesome. Like I really, really appreciate that. Because a lot of the backlash against Twilight in particular was because girls and women like it. And not because it needed to be pushed against because it's awful. And it promotes like really, really toxic beliefs and stereotypes about
and gendered relationships,
gender roles. Yeah, gender
that's
roles, and
that's why I don't want to. I mean, those are the things that I've heard that make me not want to read it.
Ooh, or watch it. Well, it's a 4-book chastity. Oh gosh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Parable. Thank you. Chastity parable.
Yeah.
And
not really interested in chastity parables.
Yeah. If we ever have time, I would love to go into, I have literary and psychoanalyzed Stephanie Meyer, but she's terrified of death and she feels very ambivalent about Mormonism, and I can prove it. Between Twilight and then her book, The Host, which is her standalone, not YA. I don't know. Anyway, so I have thoughts. We'd need to set aside a half hour, but
I've never read any of those things either, so I could not contribute at
all. So. But yeah, it would be a monologue. So if any of our 14 subscribers are interested, just let me know, because I find it fascinating. So anyway, the other thing I think is interesting in that worth discussing in High School Poppycock is the double date.
Yeah, that's a very cringy moment.
It's one of those where like you'd have to like try to write someone as unpleasant as Todd. And like harmlessly unpleasant. Like, I mean, there's the point where they're like, oh my goodness, is he the killer? But other than that, like he doesn't, his interest in dental stuff and lobelia being used for constipation and stuff is harmless.
Yeah.
But boy, is he unpleasant.
Yeah.
But he's also right. Rachel Harris as Linda looks particularly lovely in that episode. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's always lovely, but she looks,
that red dress that she wears is like awesome.
It's fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Linda's reaction to Maze calling her selfish is really interesting. Because on the one hand, like, I do think that Linda's not entirely wrong, but neither is Maze. And I was thinking, because we were talking about love triangles last episode, I was thinking about this love triangle. It's kind of a true triangle, except that it's not sexual.
Between Maze and Linda's not sexual, right?
Yeah. And and the fact that Linda chooses friendship when she really cares for Menadiel is kind of amazing.
It is. And I feel like the whole conversation actually falls into a false binary. Like, I know Maze said, like, I prefer that you not, because it makes me uncomfortable. But ultimately, what was really distressing, the ways in which it was really selfish, I mean, they did it for good reason, but was the lying and the sneaking, right? Like, as Lucifer said to Maze through the closed door in the episode where he got stuck in the meat locker, like, you don't want him, but you won't let him have anyone like that. How is that okay? I just feel like actually the third way would have been a conversation to be like, I don't want to hurt you, but I really like him and he really likes me. And that's actually rare. And what can we do to make you feel better about this? Because I'm going to do it. Like that feels like a third way that was just ignored, which I would think, frankly, a therapist would have been able to come up with, you know?
The only reason why I would see that as not an option is because Maze is a demon and emotionally very immature. And so in some ways, Linda is treating her the way like a single parent would if their child said, I'm uncomfortable with you dating my teacher, or something like that. Not that it's okay for while the teacher is teaching the child, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yes. And she's not a child, and she won't grow if she's not given opportunities to stretch. True. And I mean, like Linda chose her path and we understand why, because she was genuinely afraid Maze would do her physical harm. I mean, we saw her genuine fear in previous episodes, but she made her choice when Maze was like, you know, don't bone him. She already was. And Linda said, okay. And so that set her on the path of this binary, but ultimately it's not either or. There's a whole host of other options. So anyway, I mean, we're, 42-minute crime solving
usual caveat of
not really like the place to explore those options. I mean, it makes sense. And also like, especially like the therapist.
True. She did. One of the things she said though is like, this is not who I am.
She says that in the second episode. Yeah. When they sit down. But I still think that this is not who I am. This is like knowing that what I'm doing is hurting my friend and not doing anything. Like, I still think there are options between like cessation of the relationship and continued to sneak around behind Maze's back and lie to her.
Yeah.
But then that allowed Amenadiel to actually, because when Maze says, I'm sure this is what your dad meant for you to be doing, like that hurt him. You could like Woodside's he showed the blow of that one, like without the choreography. It was, I believed it. Like that hurt. And that falls into that whole chastity parable a little bit again, which I'm not too big on. And also like, it's totally believable within the character and the framework the show has set up. And so but for him to say like, yeah, I'm not who I am either, needed that very strong, I'm going this other way from Linda for him to react to. So speaking of love triangles, let's talk about Infernal Guinea Pig, because I actually, after we had that conversation about love triangles last time and my wishing that the showrunners had pushed harder on the Pierce Lucifer romance, like actually in Infernal Guinea Pig, we see Chloe jealous of their relationship. It's in a professional context, but it's like very clearly jealousy, which I think is really interesting. And after I had just said that in our last conversation, watching it, I was like, oh, cool.
It's that thing.
I'm glad she's feeling that way, because that validates what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, and that there's some Infernal Guinea Pig is funny. That I didn't look up the woman's name, but the actress
Lauren Lapkus,
that's her name, who plays Brie /Abel. She had fun with that role.
Amazing.
She had a lot of fun, and it was awesome.
What's hilarious is like her delivery is so earnest. Like
really
I
large
have a large flaw.
Yeah.
That's what you and I both. It could support 2 wives and our offspring and our offspring's offspring.
Yeah, she did a great job. And like the man spreading
Oh yeah.
Perfect. I was pleased with her performance.
Oh my goodness. Well,
like,
I also
like when Amenadiel picks up the tray,
yeah,
it shows her reflection, and she's like, "Are these bosoms mine?" So awesome.
well, and what I really appreciate is there's no like gay panic. Like when she thinks Menadiel's hitting on her, she's like, look, I've told all of the men who have come to me, that's not what I'm into. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's all it is. It's just like, no, thank you. And why do I have to keep saying this? Like, mm-hmm. I'm not used to this. Mm-hmm. And then like, oh, well, no wonder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just yeah, her delivery is amazing.
Yeah. All of that made a lot of sense. The thing that didn't, I don't know, like when Pierce learns that Abel is in hell and says, I've been trying to tell people he was the ass hat, mm-hmm. you know, and he like feels really validated. Like, that's really sad and messed up that after 5,000 years, your response is, I told you he was the jerk.
Well, that actually gets to Pierce Kane really being evil. Like he really, I mean, like that's what he immediately goes to. And then with the conversation he has with Lucifer, when Lucifer's like, how do you know you're not going to hell? He's like, because I don't feel any guilt. I'm like, and that gets to like the same things that we get in the Reddit stuff, is just like, what about sociopaths? And it's just like, and I think it's actually very in comic book character, and somewhat in how Lucifer has been written for the book, for the TV show. But in the comic book, Lucifer doesn't lie, but he doesn't tell the whole truth. And so Lucifer, upon hearing that, would be like, yeah, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Like, he'd know.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
And you know, just because your guilt holds you there, if you are someone who's capable of feeling guilty,
doesn't mean that's the only way to hold you there.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you get a free pass if you're incapable of it.
Yeah.
And so it makes it all the more clear how dangerous Cain is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and that this friendship with Lucifer is kind of doomed.
Well, it's entirely Machiavellian,
mm-hmm.
for Cain. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it is for Lucifer. Well, partially, but I think it's entirely Machiavellian for mm-hmm. Cain.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it's sad, like as we were talking about in the last episode, that like in the Till Death Do Us Part episode, we saw some of the pathos of being Cain, mm-hmm. and how like Lucifer is one of the very few people who can understand him. And you know, there's a possibility for an actual connection there that could be a real friendship, that could be a comfort to Cain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he is so focused on what he wants, which again fits with the biblical story.
Yeah.
Like it very much works. And then that also, like the idea that guilt keeps you there, the fact that when Cain's like, I'm just the one who won the fight, like that's a horrible thing to say. And then also thinking about how Lucifer felt about when he really had no choice but to kill Uriel in the last season.
He had no choice.
He felt he had no choice. Well, it was that or two other people he cared about dying. Mm-hmm. You know, it was not kill or be killed. It was not, but you know, it was protective.
Right.
Whereas the story of Cain and Abel is very much selfish. Mm-hmm. But they were fighting each other, and Abel feels guilty for intending to kill Cain, because otherwise, why would,
presumably that's why he's there.
Yeah, why would Abel be in hell?
Yeah, I guess so. And that, I mean, that fits with the loop of having Cain mm-hmm. kill him over and mm-hmm. over again.
Yeah.
That moment when Abel in Brie's body kills Cain. And then he comes back, and then, you know, Abel freaks out. It's like, just do it quickly. That was a moment where my overthinking brain, I really wish that Abel had pronounced it not the English way, which I know like 99% of the people watching it didn't would have been confused if Abel had called him Cain or something. But that was a moment where my overthinking brain was like, he would have come out with the actual original pronunciation in that moment of panic.
Well, in the same way that, Mom, Cain is on my side. I do right after that, when Pierce says sarcastically, thanks for the heads up to Maze, because Maze obviously
saw her.
Well, allowed Abel to find Cain. And she's like, I thought you wanted to die. Make up your mind, Cupcake.
Yeah. That was a great line.
That was a great line. Because it's like, yeah, seriously, like, do you want this or not? So the way that Amenadiel is trying to, like, I understand Amenadiel's trying to get Abel back to hell, but without his wings, he can't just fly him back to hell. But whew, that's dark. Like, here, have a gun.
Was that to kill himself?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way Abel understood it.
Yeah.
Huh. That is dark.
Yeah.
I was a little confused because I was a little confused in this rewatch, because they were just talking about having potentially the even Steven of having Abel kill Cain right before we see that scene. And I was like, when did Amenadiel get in on that? So which he didn't, like, that becomes clear, but that actual moment when he passes the gun across the yeah, that is really dark.
Yeah. Interesting
too. I mean, I know Maze, you know, we had a nice little like hand wave so that Abel would speak English. That Maze and the other demons taught him all kinds of languages in the many, many loops. I guess they also taught him firearms.
Yeah.
I mean, like a 6,000-year-old man wouldn't recognize a gun, let alone know how to use it when the bad guy Bolivian was aiming at.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a moment that when he recognizes what the gun is and then uses it, that I was like, you're just gonna have to go with it, Trace. You're just gonna have to swallow this.
Well, and the
incredulity
fact that Abel has learned such adaptability, but gets run over by an ambulance at the end. It's just like,
which is and that's the third time Abel's nearly hit by a car.
Yeah.
Or actually
hit by a car.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that also just felt like we can't have Abel running around. What are we gonna do? Yeah. Oh, this will be funny.
Yeah.
Like have Pierce say that as long as he's alive, and then instantly get hit by a truck. That'll be funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of gross.
Poor Brie.
Poor Brie's family.
Yeah.
Because they don't know that it was the first murder victim's soul in her body for the last couple days.
Yeah.
They just know she almost died and then did die.
Yeah.
That's up.
It really is.
Sorry, folks.
You gotta watch your mouth there, Tracy.
Family show.
So we should probably talk about Charlotte's hell loop. And the fact that she's like, preferably if you can help me do it while I sleep, because that's 4 hours that I'm just wasting every day. I'm like, wow. 4 hours. How do you, I know there are people like that, but
yeah, no, I think it is it's a physiological, like Thomas Edison apparently didn't sleep very much, like his whole life. But if I don't get 8 hours, I'm useless, like totally useless.
Yeah.
So
and I am prone to naps. I am likely to take one after
we finish. No, I am too, mainly because I almost never get 8 hours. So
Yep.
I have to fill in the middle.
Yeah. So
Fitbit says I got 6.5 last night. So I'm short 90 minutes.
Well, I really appreciated Linda being like, therapy is not something you can win at. Like, oh, I can win at anything. Like, I feel a little called out. Like, I'm not quite that hard driving, but I definitely do have the like, okay, what's the best way to do this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
How do I maximize?
Yeah. I remember going to see a rabbi after one of our family members, well, two of our family members had passed away, and like just talking for a long time. And finally he was like, okay, Tracie, you've been talking a lot and you don't have to rush through this.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So I agree with, I mean, for one thing, Tricia Helfer did a fantastic job describing her hell loop. I mean, like that you really feel it. And then Linda's reaction, like that was a very brave start, is also like, you really feel that as well. Because it was very difficult for her to admit to
share it.
Yeah.
I think even Rachel Harris's delivery as the receiver of the story, like she doesn't speak, but she has this very subtle like head nod, like that says like, I heard you, keep going, that I think was really powerful and believable, that it was very subtle. When the camera panned to Rachel Harris's face as Charlotte was telling her story. Yeah. Actually, Charlotte's epiphany moment when Abel as Brie says, if you had been there, you would do anything to avoid going back. That, I mean, the writers, the showrunners hit us over the head a little bit, but I appreciated it. I think it kind of needed it, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and they did, but then her reaction was not hit over the head. I mean, it wasn't like subtle, but it was like, oh, wait, maybe I could apply this to my life, like, so that scene with Abel and Chloe
and Charlotte,
when Chloe like leans into Charlotte and she's like, Pierce has told me there's some PTSD. And then also the fact that that Abel has such respect for, you are both very wise, I have been told. So his respect for Pierce's regular discombobulation with pronouns when talking about Brie/Abel, I understand it, because it's
yeah, we had that just now. It's interesting though that like when Lucifer corrects Pierce and then Chloe's just like, whatever. I don't even want to know.
Yeah. But that interplay in that scene between the three of them is just funny. Delightful.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's I'm a fan. And then I forgive me because I watched it last night, so I'm forget. But aren't like Pierce and Lucifer in the
they're watching.
They're watching and like kind of like shitting bricks because they're concerned about what they're going to figure out about Abel.
They seem not too concerned about that. What bothers them is at the end when Chloe leaves with.
Oh, that's right.
They said so much for being released into your custody.
Into Pierce's custody. That's right. That's right. Okay, what kind of bomb is that like, as long as you keep your thumb on it, the bomb's not going to go off?
I figured that was the
like the trigger.
like sort of like the grenade. You pull the pin
so
and
it's
hold
like
the handle as long as
still
you're holding
there.
in the handle.
Gotcha. All right, I'll buy that. Yeah, I was thinking it was like Speed, the movie, like, over 40 miles per hour, it's engaged. Under 40 miles an hour, boom.
I assumed it was like whatever, because the trigger was to open the drawer. But actually I figured the trigger was the pressure on the thumb, the thumbprint thing. And so once the pressure was removed, then it would be fully detonated. That's the way I read that.
Yeah.
Scene. But
that totally
I think that's sense. That's what the writers were thinking.
Okay. I will buy that. I just, it had me like, I was just like, really?
So the thing in that scene that had me saying that was like, I mean, maybe you get some explosive training in the academy or something, but like if I was looking at plastic and wires and told me to pull the blasting cap, I mean, you might as well tell me to pull the flipper gibbet. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it looks like. I don't that was the bit that I was like, I mean, he didn't even say it'll look like this and be this color, be this, like, she just knew what a blasting cap looked like. Which I don't know, maybe cops do get some like,
well, maybe not cops,
explosives 101. Like, I don't know.
Once you get to a certain level.
I don't know. Or
maybe a blasting cap looks very much like something that's in a firearm.
I don't know.
You can see our complete lack of knowledge about weapons.
Yeah, incendiary devices. I don't know, but that was the thing that I was like, really? Like, I don't know. I mean, and I've been trained by movies too, that like the person on the other end of the phone with the person with the thing, like the red wire, no, not the green one, I'm colorblind, like that, like it's always about snipping a wire. So I guess that also was part of why I was confused, because it didn't match the script of the explosives.
Well, but she said, so what do I do? Cut the wires? And he's like, oh, damn movies.
That's true.
So
that was weird.
It was, it was a very light case of the week. Like it seemed pretty obvious that the boss had something to do with it. Like,
well, I mean, we're in that run of episodes where the first person they interview is the killer.
Always.
I mean, like there's just like a whole stretch, especially in season 3, where that.
And I had this thought that, like, I'm really good at like murder mysteries, but that's because there's an economy of characters. And so that's, in the real world, probably it is relatively likely that either the first or one of the first people you interview will be the killer, but at the same time, it could be anyone on Earth. I mean, not quite that big, but still. So we are having that, and 42-minute show, same as with writing a murder mystery, like there's got to be an economy of characters for it to be fair. You can introduce a character in the last minute who's like, oh, and now we found him and we've never heard of him before, but that's breaking the rules of
it's just unsatisfying for the viewer / reader.
So and we never get to know the actual Brie, to know anything about like motive or what she was doing.
She died before the show started. Or
I mean, we see her
in a coma.
In a coma, and then flatlining, and then she is gone. And it's and hopefully she's in heaven and having a good time eating pudding or whatever.
So Amenadiel and Linda, their relationship, which from season 6, like looking back, like having seen the whole thing, like I had forgotten how real it was. Like in my memory, it was just sort of a sexual relationship, but these 2 episodes in particular made it clear that there was a real connection that was beyond just sexual chemistry, which is interesting. In retrospect, it's interesting to see that, and also like some of the early in the midrash, like some of the early, like the whole idea of a fallen angel is because the angels wanted to have sex with human women, and like that was like a big old no. So
is there a reason why it was a big old no?
I don't know.
Because
I haven't studied
those
it.
poor women would never be satisfied by human men again, or it's just like, it's just not fair. It's not fair to any of the humans to do this.
Not fair to human men. I don't know. It was a clear, like I've read the translation of the text that, you know, says that they copulated with human women. They were tempted, and that was the cause of their fall. So I just think that's really interesting backstory for when Maze says, I'm sure this is what your dad meant. Well, for you know, while you were down here. And even the sort of, he really cares about her and feels deeply connected, like adds an extra layer to the, you know, ancient just story that was just, I mean, in some ways just prurient, you know, in my mind. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of a nice reminder in my like mental furniture of the characters, that there was a real, true, deep connection between the two of them.
Yeah. And moving forward, we see it shifts to a different but still real connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's you know, one of the things I think I appreciate is I feel like what I like about Linda choosing to end the relationship is that it feels realistic to who she is, in that as much as she loves men, and she loved Reese, and you know, clearly she loves Amenadiel, those are not necessarily the central relationships in her life. And so that, I think that's one of the reasons why I appreciate it, is I feel like based on how the character is written, she's someone who has chosen to center like friendship and her professional relationships, in that care for her patients, rather than center a romantic relationship, as much as she really appreciates the accoutrements of romance. The fallen angel of it all. And so I part of the reason why I appreciate that is because I like seeing that. Like I've talked many episodes ago about Sex and the City. And one of the things that bothered me a bit about the way the show originally ended was that all four of the women are coupled in heterosexual relationships. And it's just like, the show was about the importance of these friendships. And, you know, but the happily ever after is still heterosexual relationship, instead of it being like, our friendship is what sustains us. And so I appreciate seeing not just an example of it, but like an example of a highly intelligent, professional, very attractive, like sexual woman who decides to make friendships the center of her life. And then, you know, we further on, we learn there's other stuff, but it just, that I would love to see more of that. In the same way, like, you know, it feels so good to go back and watch Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something so lovely about the bonds between friends that we don't get to see as the happy ending in a lot of stories.
Yeah.
So have we overthunk it enough?
I think maybe we have. I have a little bit of fluff though.
I would love to hear your fluff, because I don't think I have any.
So in High School Poppycock, when Lucifer as Todd is confronting one of the dudes and like trying to figure out where he was or whatever, and like gets up in his face, they kind of like duck into a photo booth.
Yeah.
And there's like a flash and the sound of it like repeatedly. And then that's it. Like, I really wanted to see the strip.
Like, it's Chekhov's photo booth. Yeah. I had forgotten about that, but you're right. When they were doing that, I was just like, why don't we end up seeing
why did they not like why did they do that visual gag if they weren't going to give us the photos at the end? And I was like, oh, is he going to have his devil's face in the pictures? Like, why? Like, it felt like an open loop that never got closed. Well, I wonder if it ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. It's the gun on the mantle that doesn't go off. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. I was like, oh, what pictures are they going to be? And then we never saw. So that was a little bit, yeah, that was a piece of fluff for me.
Yeah. Him having a British accent as Todd, and she's like, oh, and you have a British accent. He's like, oh, I've had many accents over the years. This one's
clearly the best. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, and she just accepted that.
Yeah. Like, okay. I'm not gonna argue. I mean, look at you.
Yeah, true. Yes.
All right. The one piece of fluff I'm gonna share is so we've mentioned before how Tracie at random times will send me pictures of Tom Ellis.
I do.
Just texts them to me. And so I sent her some pictures of Tom Welling from circa Smallville era. And the first one, Tracie's like, holy wow.
Yeah. I think my exact words were, what? And then drool. In square brackets.
The second one, which is one of the promotional photos, like I have seen this one many times, but like his eyes are just so piercing, and like the way I described it is like you could cut glass with his gaze or his bone structure. And Tracie's response was like, "That's a little too much lip gloss." I'm like, "It is the exact right amount of lip gloss."
It was a lot of lip gloss. And blush and eyeshadow.
I don't care.
Very pretty in that picture.
So pretty.
No, but actually even better than that was your point that Tom Ellis ages like fine wine. Tom Welling ages like wild turkey. It'll still get you there, but it's a little rough.
Forgotten I'd said that.
Oh man.
Well, I think the difference is, well, not necessarily. There's some pretty men who aged in a lovely way, but I think like the really pretty does not necessarily age as well as like someone who is, handsome, just gets more handsome. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
It's a theory.
Understand the distinction, but
I'm just thinking like
I'll go with it.
The way Johnny Depp looks now, and some of that has to do with my opinion of him now.
Well, also,
lots of drug use.
And the facial hair and the eye makeup that continues, but isn't put on particularly well.
Yeah. So, but sorry, Tom Welling, but we still like you.
Wild turkey, you.
Definitely. I mean, you're eating matzah, I'd probably kick you out of my bed because it's really crumbly. I'm trying to think. Popcorn, I think I'd be okay. Whereas Tom Ellis, you can eat anything you want in bed. I did not mean that the way that came out.
The accidental pervert.
The accidental pervert strikes again.
I'm calling it now. I can't take anymore.